This piece is by Brian Wilkerson of Knoxville, Tennessee. He's actually a good friend of Professor Tim Van Beeks. I understand they went to graduate school together. But the piece has been cut from steel using a laser. And what's interesting about it is the fact that it's kind of transparent, yet it defines the form of the square or the rectangle. If you look closely at it, there's lots of different images on it going on in here, and they seem to conflict with one another, but yet they all blend together to send one message. What's the message? That's up for the viewer to decide. This is The Twisted Tree by Abby McCullough. Abby is a recent graduate of Siena. This was done as part of a call for artists last year when we asked the students to design works for the sculpture park. We did not necessarily ask them to be competent in making sculpture, only to submit a design. Once Abby's design was selected, it was then taken to Flatlanders in Blissfield, where she worked with one of the technicians to cut out and weld together her pieces. In the course of things, she learned a bit about running a CNC plasma table, as well as learning how to use a MIG welder. This limestone fish is by noted alum Tom Rudd, graduated in 1974. The piece is carved like many of Tom's fish, and it's part of a series. Tom has used the symbolism of fish to talk about ecology in a lot of his work over the years. This is a piece that I did back in 1998, I believe, and it's based on a theory by Buckminster Fuller. He theorized the concrete suspension bridge, which if he had all these identical elements cast out of concrete and then strung them together on stainless steel cables, that when torqued it would become a rigid form. This one's built exactly that way. On the top of each end are two nuts. I don't know if I should spread this around, but if you loosen those nuts, the piece falls apart. But part of the idea is to try to make large sculptures more manageable in terms of transportation, but I was also fascinated by the way in which torsion makes the piece strong. These are the Dazzle Panels. It's a piece that I had the pleasure to collaborate with Natalie Lanise, a well-known former instructor here at Siena, who's gone on to do many great things since. But the idea was I created the basic sculpture out of steel and turned it over to Natalie to treat the surface. She chose to paint it, and the method that she uses is actually drawn from a World War II method of camouflaging, where they would paint the ships in all sorts of crazy patterns and bright colors so that when a submarine looked at them, they couldn't actually see which way the ship was moving, because it confused the optics and they couldn't judge its speed. It just was totally confusing. This is Point Well Taken by Rick Licklider, graduated in 1973. In addition to that, Rick has the notoriety of being one of the very, very first men on campus. Lots of stories to be told there. But at any rate, the piece is about 18 foot tall and it's constructed from steel. Rick has made a number of these similar vertical forms and that have become very popular for him. He's placed, I believe, 5 of them in public collections. This one, though, was purchased by the Wittersheim Sculpture Committee like 3 years ago with funds that we'd raised through all of our different events that we host throughout the year. This piece adds a bit of an international flair to the collection on campus. It was done by Kees Owens, who is Dutch, but lives in Japan and Mexico, splitting his year. The piece is called Whispering Stones, although they really don't whisper. But it was done for a sculpture competition originally down in Florida. And then after the competition ended, it was brought up and exhibited in Michigan City, Indiana. From there, it was brought here and is technically stored here for about the last 4 years. But in actuality, it looks like it's become part of the collection. But it's an interesting piece, casts great shadows, Each and every stone on top is a different stone and carved in a different way. And it's important to note that all those stones, even though the artist is from all over the world, each one of those stones came from Glacial Till here in Michigan. The sculpture that you've been seeing is all in honor of a former instructor here and much beloved professor, actually, John D Wittersheim. John came here in 1979 from Detroit, where he'd been working at Greenfield Village as a blacksmith. Also got a degree from Wayne State University as well as his master's from Cranbrook. Unfortunately, John passed away in 2013. He was loved by many of his former students, and he was actually a dear friend of mine. John is greatly missed, but we wanted to do something, both students, faculty, and alumni, wanted to do something to honor John's memory. So we started the John D Wittersheim Sculpture Park, which has ballooned to many pieces on campus. I can't even think of the number, but there's a number of pieces that have become permanent on campus that have been either purchased or are gifts from alumni, which if you get the opportunity and you're interested in placing a piece of sculpture on this campus, please get in touch with us. We'd love to talk to you.